You know, boxing today, it seems like there's news breaking every single day. There's fights being announced almost every day, big fights at that. Boxing's in a good place. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I find it a little bit difficult at times just to stay on top of everything between checking Twitter, checking boxing scene, going on BoxRec to see if there's anything announced. There's a lot to look for. There's a lot of platforms you need to go on. And if you look there on screen, you'll see today's sponsors, Boxing Showtimes. They've made an app that does it all for you. Look at that on screen. It shows you where you can get tickets. It gives you all the latest news. It gives you the tail of the tape. It gives you all the card details. It's going to give you details about Fury Usyk. It's going to give you details about Joshua Ngannou. It's also going to have a lot more little things thrown in there as well. The link is in the comment section. It's going to be pinned on this video and more besides soon enough. And not only that, in the comment section, there's also going to be a link, a G-Man promo, which means you can access a little bit more without ads. Now that, to quote Eddie Hearn, is a game changer. Now let's crack on with the video. All right, we are getting closer and closer to Fury versus Usyk, and I am definitely excited. It's getting there. We're getting so close to it now. It's the 1st of February on Thursday this coming week, and then we're only 17 days away. We're getting there, lads. We're almost there. We're almost at undisputed. And I, for one, am excited. I want to do a little bit more detailed kind of breakdowns before I give my, prediction probably in the next week or so. I'll probably try and upload that on fight week. Maybe the Sunday before the fight or the Saturday before the fight, thereabouts. But Oleksandr Usyk, I talked about his choice of sparring partners in a video last week. A lot of people really enjoyed that. And actually, to be honest, I enjoyed looking at it as well. I enjoyed just kind of, looking and just saying, okay, these are the guys he has in there. And yeah, they're not going to be a who's he. He's not going to have elite world level sparring partners in terms of, the top 10 of the heavyweight division in there. He's going to try and get guys who can replicate Fury and look for, they're not all going to, none of them are going to be able to replicate Fury to a T. He's a very tricky operator to work out, but you can take snippets of each guy. And I thought the same for Fury. It's going to be difficult to find someone to really replicate Oleksandr Usyk. He did have Jay Opetaia in for all of 5 rounds, and I would say Opetaia is the closest thing you'll get to roughly being able to replicate Usyk. He's not as good with his footwork. I think Usyk's a bit faster. I just think Usyk is just better. But he's not, he probably has the harder punch out of the two. He'd probably be a harder puncher. But overall, I think in terms of just footwork and everything, he is the closest you're going to get to Oleksandr Usyk. Now, he doesn't have him in sparring anymore. But let's have a look at the other sparring partners that Tyson Fury does have in camp. And let's just see kind of how they measure. Now I'll give my 2 cents on how I think they measure the Usyks at the end. One, I gave my opinion on someone who, now obviously it's too late now, but I said that with Oleksandr Usyk, I personally would have definitely tried to get Lawrence Okolie into that camp, because Okolie, 6'5", so he's not as tall as Fury. He is taller than Usyk though, but he has that he's really lanky frame. He'll keep it at range, and if it gets close, he'll tie you up, which some suspect that's what Fury will do. So for me, I was thinking, well, that just makes sense. I know he's not as tall, but he's as good as what you're kind of going to expect. That was what I said for Oleksandr Usyk. For Tyson Fury, I don't see his name here, and maybe he's not even boxing anymore. But if he was in his prime, I would be saying to Tyson Fury, as well as Jay Opetaia, but obviously he's not in camp anymore, I'd be saying, get Artur Szpilka in. Get Artur Szpilka in, because yes, he's not as good as Oleksandr Usyk, but he is similar. He's like a pound shop Oleksandr Usyk. But at the end of the day, how many guys are you going to get to really be able to replicate Oleksandr Usyk in sparring? You're not really going to be able to. Someone like him, who is similar height to Usyk, he's a bit heavier, but he's not in as good a shape. So he's always been in the kind of 220s, 230s, but he's never been as lean as Usyk is. He's not mentioned there. Now, he could be retired, I don't know. But that's a name that I would get in for Tyson Fury if he was available. But saying that you're talking a prime Szpilka was 7-8 years ago. Probably regressed a lot since then. But some of the names he does have in there. Yeah, we already knew about this. Moses Atelma, 7-0, and I think Atelma is a heavyweight for the future. I think he's tremendously talented. I think this year is going to be a very, very big year for him. He's out on the Fury Usyk undercard. I would imagine that Warren will have him out at least. I reckon he'll probably try and get him out at least another 7 or 8 times this year. He probably would have been out more last year had he not hurt his hand. And I think it was the Doboshenko fight which sidelined him for a little bit. Not much, but just enough that he missed a couple of dates. A very talented heavyweight, a very young heavyweight. He's only 19 years old, but a very good mover, very fast, tremendous combination puncher. I mean, his hand speed in terms of combinations, it's right up there. I'm telling you now, you look at Atelma's hand speed in combinations, it's right up there. And Fury has spoke very highly of Atelma. Even before going into camp, he spoke very highly of him going back to the Ngannou fight week. Obviously, Atelma fought on his undercard, and Fury was absolutely shocked to find out he was 18 years old. He certainly doesn't look 18, or he's 19 now, but he looks older than he is. He has that Luke Littler syndrome, I think, where you hear his age and you're like, really? Apparently so. That's Moses Atelma. I think that's a tremendous sparring partner to have in camp. I think that's a very good sparring partner. Yes, I will say Opetaia, I think is the, well, of course he is better. He's a much better fighter, but I think that if you don't have Opetaia, Atelma is a pretty good shout. He also has Kevin Lerena in there. Now, Kevin Lerena, for those who remember, he's actually been on one of Fury's undercards. He was on the undercard of Chisora Fury 3. He fought Daniel Dubois. And in that fight, he had Dubois down in the very first round. And, you know, it looked... That Daniel Dubois who fought Kevin Lerena was a far cry from the Dubois who just fought Jarrell Miller. That's what I'll say about that. That was a very different Daniel Dubois who fought Miller. But Lerena, South African, 31 years old, the KO Kid, which is a... I don't think that's a pretty good nickname because he only has 14 KOs in 30 fights. So he's not even got a 50... Even if you take the losses out, he's not even got a 50% KO ratio. 6'1", southpaw, obviously. He's not the mover that Usyk is. He's not even the mover that an Opetaia is. But he is a decent enough fighter. His best wins, Bogdan Dinu, everyone beats Bogdan Dinu. Mariusz Vac, everyone seems to beat Mariusz Vac, who incidentally is in the camp with Oleksandr Usyk. Riot Mia, that win aged well because he went on to beat Tony Oka in his very next fight. Senad Gashi, who is a gatekeeper type heavyweight. He's very negative as Senad Gashi. Very negative fighter. The only time I've never seen him negative is when he fought Takam. And he got knocked out in I think 7-8 rounds in that fight. He's also fought people like Arthur Mann. I've seen him a few fights. He actually took his O. He's also fought Sefa Safiri. Stopped him in 3 rounds. And he actually fought Firat Arslan, who's got to be well in his 50s now. In 2020, even in 2020, he would have been well in his 50s. Yeah, he wouldn't have been. He would have been about 49. Still, I'm amazed he's still fighting Firat Arslan, by the way, at 53. Bizarre. But yeah, this is a heavyweight, but he's now he did campaign at cruiserweight for a long time. So Kevin Lerena, don't think that's a bad shout, to be honest with you. And he is a decent. He's not a world beater or anything like that, I don't think anyway. But he is he'll give people tough nights. I'll put it like that. And the last guy he has here is a guy called Alexis Barrera. I think is how you say that guy's name, who is actually currently 11-0. He is Canadian, actually. He is from Quebec in Canada, 28 years old, 6'4" southpaw. He has 11-0 with 9 knockouts. You look at his resume, no names really jump out at you, to be honest with you. He's been getting rid of a lot of these guys. The only name I vaguely recognise is he got a win last year over Mike Marshall. Now, Mike Marshall actually fought on Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder's 3 undercard. He fought Victor Faust. Just a little bit of boxing trivia. Mike Marshall, I actually remember following his early pro career. I was on Instagram at the time. And he started out as a super middleweight. I think he was trying to make middleweight. And he ends up campaigning at heavyweight. Yeah, that, needless to say, that didn't work out too well for Mike Marshall. He got stopped in a round. I think he's lost more fights now than he's won. Yeah, 6-5 from New York. I think he's from the Bronx. But that might be his best win, truth be told. Bit of an unknown quantity. Canada is not known for a conveyor belt of particularly talented heavyweights, it has to be said. But you never know. Lennox Lewis, obviously Lennox Lewis is dual citizen, born in Britain, raised in Canada, went back to Britain, represented Canada in the Olympic Games. But, it's not a nation you would associate much with heavyweight boxing per se. But that is Fury's camp. They are his three main sparring partners. And I have to say, those three sparring partners, if I contrast them to Usyk's, I think Fury has the better team. Certainly in terms of sparring partners, I think that they'll be tougher spars, which might not necessarily be a good thing, but I definitely think that they are a bit of a higher quality than what Usyk has. Now, saying that, they could be not amazing in a pro ring, but behind closed doors in the gym environment, they could be amazing. Same could be said for guys like Kevin Lorena, Telma. I just think Fury has the better sparring partner. Those three and the few rounds he would have had with Opataya, that's better than I think what Usyk has. But will that matter come what fight night? They don't do things that Usyk does. You're trying to get little snippets of your opponent and try and replicate it in sparring. But until you're there on fight night, you're really not gonna get it. You're not gonna get the full package which you're gonna get with Usyk, and likewise with Fury. So I like what I'm seeing, at least in that camp. Looks good. Yeah, they're interesting sparring partners. Let me know what you think about Fury's choice of sparring partner. And there's not really much else I can say. There's no point me asking who you think will win. Most people will say it in the comments. We're getting closer to the fight. That's the main thing. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm honestly cannot emphasize it enough how excited I am for this fight. I think it's going to be absolutely tremendous. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing a good fight. Hopefully, touch wood, nothing happens between now and then. Nothing goes awry. I don't think it will. I don't think it will. One thing I've noticed with these Saudi shows, I'm trying to think, has there been... I don't think there's been a pullout yet. Why would they want the pullout? I'm sure they'd go in there, with an arm hanging off for the money that they're going to be making. I'm not just talking about Fury, in general. I don't recall there being pullouts, and if there is, I'm sure they had to do that pullout kicking and screaming because the money that's on the line. So I'd be very surprised if either man pulls out. I'd be very surprised. Let me know your thoughts on Fury sparring partners in the comments section below. Lads, I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And for now, I'll talk to you. Peace.